You have it all in your heart and in your soul, but all you need is a little guidance. Welcome to Motivational Radio Friends with your host, Longi Agoha from Paris.
Welcome back to the second part of our program, being a single or team player as it relates to achieving success in life. Working alone may be the key to better productivity. In this part of our program, I shall discuss the advantages and disadvantages of working in a team and finally shed some light on the relationship between working and motivation and what one stands to gain when we are motivated in life. But before I start, here's a quote: "Challenges are what make life interesting, and overcoming them is what makes life meaningful." Joshua G. Marie. Working in a team, on the other hand, has massive advantages. People are different and everyone has a unique gift in this world. And when everyone brings his or her unique gift to bear in a team, the results are astonishing. Working in a team makes people to be more creative because of the fact that they are mutually motivated by one another. In some cases, projects are carried out quicker and better results are achieved by a dedicated team than an individual working or going it alone. Here are a list of advantages one stands to gain by working in a team. Improve communication. When you work in a team, communication is really very important, and people tend to communicate much more than an individual who works alone. So you have a tendency to speak to your colleagues, and your colleagues also have the tendency to ask you questions or share thoughts with you. Second, you can learn from one another. When you work in a team, you have a tendency to learn from your colleagues. You can learn many things from them, and they also can learn lots of things from you. So you are certainly going to learn a lot by working in a team than by working alone. That's what we call brainstorming in companies today, and that is also given a pride of place. So brainstorming sessions also help for more productivity because many companies adopt this system today. For example, in the Monday morning, they brainstorm, for example, from 9 to 10 or even for 2 hours in order to find better ways or quicker ways of achieving results or solving problems. So when you brainstorm, you have a tendency to be more creative. The fourth one is brings out the best in an individual. When you work in a group, the individual shines more because there's an internal competition. The tendency to be better than the other brings out the best in you, so you shine in a group more than you shine as an individual if you're working alone. So when you work in a group, you have a tendency to bring out your best because there's internal competition going on. Even if it is not said, you want to do better than your colleague, for example. So that is a big chunk of luck if you work in a group where your best is always put in on the line and you tend to show it. Next is you learn to be compromised with others. When you work in a group, the compromising is a key word that is very important because you have to agree to disagree or you disagree to agree, for example. So you have to compromise to get results. That is one big part of it. You need to compromise to get results and be able to work with other people responsibly. So you also share responsibility. That's another very good aspect of working in a group. Responsibilities are shared out, so people in a team knows exactly what they do. They should know what everybody knows exactly what he or she is supposed to do at any particular time. So you learn, share your work, share your time, share everything you do, so as to be more productive and more effective in the group. We also have increased productivity. Let's face it, many heads or two heads, they say, are better than one. So if you work in a group, productivity increases in double folds, unlike an individual, because an individual, he works long hours to produce something that people who work in a group would take like 1 hour to produce. So productivity is increased in a group team than an individual. And then the next one is, when you work in a team, you tend to do less. That's what we call division of labor. People, because of the jobs are shared out in the group, you have a small chunk of the job to do. Unlike if you're working alone, where you have to do all the job, where you have to be the secretary, the engineer, the manager, the production manager, the plant manager, everything. You are everything into one, and sometimes your capacity to perform is put in question, so much stressed out that your productivity becomes a little faltered or a little less than an individual team where many people come into play, put their expertise and their knowledge into the job, and productivity is increased because of that. In one word, working in a team has many advantages than working as a single individual. Here are some of the list again. Improved communication, you can learn from one another, brainstorming sessions brings more creativity, brings out the best in an individual if you work in a group, learn to compromise with other people, share responsibility, increased productivity, and you do less work if you work in a team than if you work as an individual. These are some of the positive aspects of working in a team as opposed to working as an individual. But we also know negative aspects of working in a team. And here are some of the negative ones. Difficulty to reach decisions fast. When you work in a team, you tend to negotiate a lot. You have to find compromise, a common ground for everybody. And sometimes this situation eats up the time because of the fact that people have divergent views, and each one wants to have his or her views taken, as opposed to an individual who works alone, who takes swift and rapid decisions quick. So when you work in a group, that indecision is also a very big chunk of the problem, where people find it difficult to come to a common compromise to go forward. Next is the need to reach a consensus. When you take a decision, you want to have the possibility of having majority of the people saying yes to your decision, so that the work can go forward. Sometimes it's very difficult to come up to this point because people are very different, and because of that difference, their points of views are also very different. The higher risk of conflicts in a team than otherwise. When you are working in a team, people tend to squabble, tend to have problems, tend to scold one another, tend to find faults in one another. And that is what you don't have if you're working as an individual. You work alone and you don't have problems, since you can't quarrel with yourself. You don't have problems, such problems. You work and work and work. While in a team, because of that many hands that are on deck, sometimes they find it difficult to become friendly or to carry out their projects peacefully. Increase in strifes and quarrels. Okay, that is nearly the same thing. We people tend to quarrel a lot because of that, because of the fact that they work in groups, and then internal competition, jealousy maybe to an extent, and people tend to they want to do better than the other person, and so in that process increases their possibility of quarreling or having problems with one another. Lack of cooperation in a team. It's another point. Some people will prefer to go it alone, and others want to work in a team. And so when you have such cocktails, sometimes it breeds problems. When there's a lack of cooperation, it's not favorable for a teamwork, because individual, you don't have such problems. Peer pressure, another point, when you have that peer pressure, when somebody's performing better than you, it makes you vulnerable. People tend to mock you, they tend to laugh at you if you're not performing as good as the other ones, and that's a very big pressure that it's on your neck, and that is pulling you down, and that is not very, very good. You are not in control. When you are working in a group, it's very, very difficult to find somebody who is totally in control, because everybody has his or her part to play, and so nobody is totally in control or would say, I am in charge here. It's very, very difficult to find such consensus where one person would dominate the other people. So it's always very, very difficult to come to such consensus where we could say, okay, this is the boss, he's the boss or she's the boss here, and everybody listens to him. This is something you don't get when you are working alone. In such a condition, you are the boss, you are the alpha and omega, you take decisions, and everything you do or say becomes final, and nobody argues with you. So these are the negative aspects of working in a team. So like I said, nothing is neutral. It's always up and down, black and white. It's not 100%. Nothing is 100% positive or 100% negative. So it's a question of compromise. It's a question of knowing what to do and how to do it, and finding the final or the better point or the better position to take to achieve success. So working alone in relation with motivation. So that's another point I'd like to discuss. See, motivation is very, very important. So motivation increases productivity in whatever you do in life. When you're motivated, you tend to produce more. You tend to have more results. You tend to acquire more. You tend to get more things done than if you are not motivated. People will believe more in you if they discover you are motivated. When someone sees you and he knows that you're motivated in doing one thing, somehow he would try to lend a helping hand. If he can't, he might give you suggestions to help you, go more further than what you've done so far. So that's very, very important, to be motivated. Next one is be mindful of what thoughts you dwell upon, because they tend to modify your results. So your thoughts are what we habitually think about every day. And so when you think and you put your thoughts into action, you tend to get results. Be mindful of what your thoughts are, because they determine somehow the results you get. Do not isolate yourself. Connect with people who will cheer you up to become your best. Nobody is man-made. You are not alone. You can't do certain things alone. You have to connect with other people to get results. That is one thing that people should do very important. Often, they should be able to connect with other people to help them to get results. Do not fail to reward yourself from time to time. People do not cheer themselves up. When you work, for example, when you carry out a project and you're able to finish a particular project, find a way of rewarding yourself. Find a way of cheering yourself, because it helps. It makes you, when you remember that you had fun doing one particular thing and you had a reward for it, you would fix other objectives and get results. At the end of that result, that you would buy something for yourself or cheer yourself up and find something that will motivate you to continue doing your best. The next one is break your work in small chunks. That's also, it increases motivation. There's no need fixing inattainable objectives in life. Try to break your objectives into small chunks, so that when you are able to a result, it motivates you to go to the next level. That's very, very important. So always try to motivate yourself by breaking into small chunks. The next one is do not forget to exercise, to keep fit, and because that is also increases your motivation. When you are in form, when you are healthy, you tend to be motivated. So try to do your best to exercise regularly, and from that you will remain and stay motivated. So in one word, I just gave you some information about how to remain motivated and working alone and remaining motivated. When you work in a team, you might be motivated by other people, so you don't need too much of motivation because you can get this motivation from other people in the group. While if you're working alone, you might not get that, so you need to have extra time to motivate yourself. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the discussion for today. And here's a thought for you. Winning isn't everything. Wanting to win is. Vincent Lombardi. Thank you very much for listening and have a nice day. This podcast was brought to you by the Motivational Radio France with your host, Longiago Barris.